chapters 169 to 170. Oh? So you've used the Metamoran's fusion technique. Rigger smirked, his tone dripping with disdain. But do you really think such a cheap trick will make you a worthy opponent for me? Besides, Vegeta, as a proud Saiyan prince, you've thrown away your arrogance and dignity to fuse with a low-class Saiyan. How shameful! This is a disgrace to the Saiyan royal family. Rigger's mocking gaze narrowed. My poor brother, you've failed the Saiyan royal bloodline entirely. I can only imagine how furious the old man would be to see you tarnish our family's legacy. He'd never forgive you for this. Despite witnessing the incredible power of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta after fusion, Rigger was still dismissive and sarcastic. He had visited the Metamoran's planet during his travels and knew all about their fusion technique. However, as a proud Saiyan, he loathed such methods, viewing them as dishonorable and beneath him. Unexpectedly, that bastard Vegeta put aside his pride of the royal family and lowered himself to fuse with a lowly Saiyan like Goku. This was simply a great humiliation to his royal lineage. TN, now don't get triggered. This bloodline pride of theirs is something the author had made up. The royals are something like distant descendants of a Saiyan Hakaishin, the one which Murno served. I think. To Rigger, it was a necessary lesson to teach GT Vegeta for betraying their Saiyan pride. Humph. Enough talk! Super Saiyan 4. Gogeta's voice was cold and direct. He didn't have time for Rigor's taunts. After using the Metamoran's fusion, their combined form would last only 30 minutes. However, due to the overwhelming power of Gogeta, the fusion might last only 10 minutes. This limitation had been proven in their battle against Omega Shenron. Gogeta understood that he had to finish this fight and eliminate both Rigger and Z Broly within that short window. It was an impossible task, but there was no other option. Without wasting a moment, Gogeta disappeared in a flash and reappeared directly in front of Rigger. Rigger was the weaker of the two enemies, at least before his transformation. Gogeta's plan was simple. Keep Rigger from transforming and take him down quickly. In the blink of an eye, Gogeta closed the distance and launched a devastating punch aimed straight at Rigger's abdomen. The blow connected before Rigger could react, sending a sharp, searing pain through his stomach. Boom! The sheer force of Gogeta's punch buried itself into Rigger's abdomen, causing blood to spurt from his mouth. Rigger's body arched violently like a bow as his eyes widened in disbelief. He hadn't expected Vegeta, fused with a low-class Saiyan, to achieve such monstrous strength. This is impossible. Before Rigger could recover, Gogeta didn't let up. With precision and power, he slammed his fist into Rigger's back, sending him hurtling into the ground below. Boom! Rumble! The impact cratered the desolate canyon, leaving it riddled with massive holes. The earth itself would have crumbled under the immense power of these fighters had it not been for the protective energy Goten had cast over the planet. As Gogeta prepared to press the attack, the ground began to shake violently. Suddenly, golden beams of light erupted from beneath the rubble, accompanied by an unimaginably powerful aura. Damn it, Gogeta muttered, his expression growing grim. Is this guy finally showing his full power? This energy? It's overwhelming. Even if I use everything I've got, I might not be able to take him down in time. What Gogeta had assumed would be a quick victory was quickly turning into something far more dangerous. Rigger's power was skyrocketing to levels far beyond expectation. Even with the strength of Super Saiyan 4 fusion, defeating him seemed uncertain. And then there was Z Broly, who continued to observe the battle from the sidelines. His power wasn't any less threatening than Rigger's. Boom! The ground exploded as a figure shot into the air. Hovering midair was none other than Rigger. But this wasn't the same Rigger Gogeta had just pummeled. His appearance had undergone a shocking transformation. His eyes, once normal, were now black and red, burning with a hellish intensity. His hair was a mix of black and gold, flowing wildly with raw energy. His aura was unlike anything GT Goku or GT Vegeta had ever encountered before. What is this transformation? Gogeta muttered, his voice betraying a hint of unease. Damn ants, Rigger sneered, his voice dripping with anger and malice. That little stunt of yours actually made me feel pain. I'll admit I underestimated your fusion. But now, it's time for you to experience despair, the kind that only hell can deliver. Rigger's fury had reached its peak. Initially, he had only wanted to toy with GT Vegeta, but now, after being humiliated by Gogeta's attack, he refused to hold back any longer. With that resolve, he had transformed into the legendary Super Saiyan 5. TN. I don't know why, but in Dragon Ball New Age, Rigger's SSJ5 form is like that. It's a concept drawing. In this form, Rigger's power was immense, beyond anything he had ever wielded. But it came with a cost. The energy coursing through his body was so great that even he struggled to control it. His body was at its limit, and sustaining the transformation was a dangerous gamble. Still, Rigger was determined. If it meant crushing GT Vegeta and his fusion partner, he would push himself to the brink. You're wasting time, Gogeta said coldly, cutting through Rigger's monologue. Come on then, let's finish this. With a burst of speed, Gogeta launched himself toward Rigger. Despite the massive gap in power, Gogeta wasn't backing down. At the very least, he intended to bring Rigger down with him. You're nothing but an insect, Rigger snarled, his voice laced with contempt. Today, you will die! The two collided in an instant, their blows landing with bone-crushing force. Boom! 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 The sound of their fists echoed across the battlefield. There was no flair to their attacks, just raw power and relentless determination. Each punch landed with devastating effect, leaving both fighters battered and bruised. Blood dripped from the corners of their mouths as the battle raged on. From a distance, Z Broly watched the fight unfold, a sinister smile playing on his lips. He made no move to intervene. Perhaps he found amusement in watching the two fighters exhaust themselves, or maybe he was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Either way, it was clear that Z Broly had no intention of making things easy for Gogeta. Bang! 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 Gogeta and Rigger clashed fiercely, their fists and energy colliding like thunder. The fighting power of the two was clearly evenly matched at this moment. However, as the battle dragged on, Gogeta began to grow impatient. He was well aware of his limitation. The fusion could only last for 10 minutes. Despite all the training over the past days, their increased strength had shortened the fusion's duration even further. Now, nearly 5 or 6 minutes into the battle with Rigger, Gogeta knew time was running out. If he didn't find a way to completely defeat Rigger soon, the fusion would end, and he and GT Vegeta would separate. If that happened, Rigger could easily kill both of them without breaking a sweat. To make matters worse, Z Broly was standing by, watching the fight intently. Whether it was Rigger or Z Broly, either of them could wipe the floor with GT Goku and GT Vegeta after the fusion ended. I can't let this drag on any longer, or the situation will spiral out of control. The thought weighed heavily on Gogeta's mind. While fighting Rigger, Gogeta kept an eye on the other battles. Trunks was holding his own for now, but the opponent he faced, Zamasu, possessed a cheat-like regeneration ability that rivaled even Majin Buu. If the battle went on, Trunks was bound to lose. Infinite regeneration was a terrifying power, and when two opponents were evenly matched, it became an insurmountable advantage. Meanwhile, Krillin, Gohan, and Oob were being relentlessly beaten by Marcus. Even as a team, they were no match for him. It was clear Marcus was the strongest among their enemies. Gogeta also noticed that Goku and Vegeta were locked in an evenly matched struggle with two other formidable foes. There was no way they'd finish their battle anytime soon. The only one with a slight advantage was Broly, who had unleashed his legendary Super Saiyan form. However, even he was struggling against that other Saiyan, who was absurdly powerful. Gogeta figured that it would take Broly a long time to finish the fight. Bang! Bang! Gogeta's thoughts were interrupted as he and Rigor clashed again, their collision sending shockwaves through the air. Both fighters were forced back, retreating several dozen feet from each other. At this point, Rigor looked strained, his expression grim. The Super Saiyan 5 transformation was an incredibly unstable state, and Rigor hadn't fully mastered its intricacies. Fighting at full power was pushing his body to its limits, and he was beginning to feel intense, piercing pain. It felt as though his body could explode at any moment. Damn it! I got too overconfident, Rigor cursed inwardly. I shouldn't have let those two complete their fusion. I didn't think they'd be this difficult to handle after fusing. Regret flooded his mind. If he'd attacked GT Goku and GT Vegeta before they fused, he could have easily killed them. Now, after their fusion, defeating Gogeta seemed almost impossible. I need to end this quickly, Rigor thought. If I keep fighting like this, my body won't hold out. The energy of my Saiyan transformation will tear me apart. Determined to avoid that fate, Rigor gathered all his remaining strength. A black and purple energy ball began forming above his head, radiating an immense destructive power. Seeing this, Gogeta's eyes narrowed in determination. He knew this battle couldn't drag on any longer. A decisive strike was the only way forward. If he could eliminate Rigor now, he could use the remaining minutes of fusion to deal with Broly. Ultimate Kamehameha! Gogeta roared, unleashing his most powerful attack. A massive blue and white energy wave formed in front of him, brimming with a power that rivaled Rigor's energy ball. Ha! Go to hell, you bastards! Rigor shouted, his energy ball surging toward Gogeta's attack. Rumble! The two colossal energy attacks collided in midair, creating a massive explosion. Lightning crackled violently as the ground shook beneath them. The sheer pressure of the collision created a massive crater in the earth, sending tremors rippling through the battlefield. Grrr! Gogeta gritted his teeth, his face strained as he poured all his strength into the attack. He knew that if he used up all his power now, the fusion could end at any moment. If that happened, Rigor's attack would obliterate both him and Vegeta. On the other side, Rigor was struggling even more. His face twisted in pain as veins bulged across his body. The strain of maintaining Super Saiyan 5 and resisting Gogeta's ultimate Kamehameha was tearing his body apart. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones breaking echoed from Rigor's body. The intense energy surging within him was wreaking havoc, causing his limbs to twist and deform. Despite the pain, he refused to relent. Gogeta noticed the change in Rigor's body. This is my chance, he realized. He didn't know exactly what was happening, but he knew this was the perfect moment to finish the fight. Ha! Gogeta roared, unleashing a final surge of power into the ultimate Kamehameha. The overwhelming energy wave devoured Rigor's attack, swallowing it whole. Rigor's expression twisted in horror as the energy wave slammed into him, consuming him completely. No! Impossible! Rigor's panicked scream echoed through the battlefield before his body disintegrated into ashes, eradicated by the blast. As Rigor was defeated, Gogeta's fusion finally gave out. Goku and Vegeta separated, falling to the ground in exhaustion. Both had reverted to their base forms, too drained to even transform into Super Saiyan 4. Whoosh! Suddenly, Vados appeared out of thin air, standing before the collapsed Goku and Vegeta.